it again. Oh, you can't see me. Hang on a sec. That would help.
There you go.
That's on me. I thought I was good to go. So we are back at it again on the Rambling Men Sports Podcast. For those asking, I have to keep my voice down because of Steven and his newborn children.
They are. You can probably hear them in the background.
You can definitely hear them. How is fatherhood treating you? First time, boys are what, a month old now? A little over a month?
They're 2 months old now.
2 months old?
They will be 2 months old on Saturday.
Wow.
But it's great. They're pretty awesome. They just got done eating, so they're a little full, and I think we're going to have to do some diapers after this, but it's going good.
That's good. So you are a father now, and now Tyler Roberts just became a father over the weekend. Good buddy of ours.
Gave birth on it. That's good.
Yeah, I didn't know. I knew Mary Scott was about to pop because when Tyler told me that they were pregnant, it was back in April. He said they were due for October, so I knew it was coming up. And then next thing I know, I get a Snapchat from her saying, "Here she comes." I was like, "Oh, okay."
It's that point in our lives, I guess, where we've been through the weddings, and now we're on to babies.
I'm way behind. I got neither.
That's okay. That's just how that goes, though.
I honestly don't care.
Yeah, no.
My mom cares.
Yeah.
The good news for her is that my brother, I think, is close.
Yeah. That's helpful.
He's got a girl, and I think they're getting pretty serious. So she's got him at least, but it ain't gonna be from me for a while.
That's the weird thing about us. My sister was married and had 2 kids by the time we got married. Of course, she's about 4 years older than me, so she's probably, you and Corey are about the same age apart as me and her.
Yeah, for 4 years.
So that was good. But in Sarah's family, Sarah's the middle child by 3 years older and 6 years younger. And she was married, and her brother got married before her, but they're nowhere near having kids. So we went ahead and had one for each of us. So knock that out of the park.
I'm curious, do twins run in either of your families?
Nope.
Wow.
The doctor asked that question pretty early.
So that can happen. I've always wondered if that could happen.
And we said no, and because they don't. And then we were like, so what is the chance of that? And he's like, basically, it's pretty much a genetic anomaly. I can't remember the exact phrase he used, but it's basically a mistake.
Huge outlier.
Yeah.
Huh. That's that's fascinating. That's not interesting.
It's awesome. I mean, it's great.
Right.
You did it. We're very happy.
But
I didn't say you shouldn't be happy. I'm just saying that's fascinating to hear.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird to hear. I think at one point in a joking manner, he was like, "Yeah, this was basically a genetic mistake."
That's funny.
I was like, "Oh, come on, doc!"
A mistake. That's one way to call babies. Man, when my aunt got pregnant, she wasn't married, but I think it was either 6 months or 6 weeks. I can't remember how long that she was married.
Yeah.
And found out she was pregnant. And so had a baby roughly a year after they just got married.
We've got an aunt like that.
And she, my mom said she called her first, my cousin, it for the longest time.
Yeah.
She didn't want to call it a baby. She just said, it's going to be here.
It.
And my mom said, you got to prepare for this because this is coming. You can't just keep calling it.
Ours went from it to them.
Yeah, it went really quickly from
it to them.
Yeah.
That's funny. So, you ready to talk some baseball?
Let's do it.
All right. So, I think what you sent me earlier today was basically a generic recap of the season and then awards, which I didn't even think about. So let's start with that. some huge. I think we have 3 big whiffs because I brought you on in the preseason.
Oh yeah.
And I can think of for sure 3 huge whiffs. I know for sure the Padres were one.
Padres won,
the Mets
definitely.
were one, New York Mets, and then I think my third was the Minnesota Twins.
Twins is a huge one. The Indians.
I don't know what happened with the Twins.
Were a big miss, I believe, on both of our parts. We kind of had them fighting with the White Sox, but yeah, no.
I don't think I had the Indians. I know I had the White Sox and the wild card, maybe winning that division.
It wasn't as big as what we thought the Padres were going to be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my goodness, they just fell apart, and they had a lot of injuries. Blake Snell went down kind of right when they needed him not to go down.
Yeah.
Joe Musgrove obviously went down. Tatis was on the IL for a while. I mean, they had a bunch of injuries, but man, you could not have told me that they would go under 500 this year with the amount of talent they have and what they got at the deadline by adding Adam Frazier. I mean, nobody could have convinced me that they were going to finish under 500, and that's what they did.
I'm trying to think who else. Oh, obviously, I don't think it's a whiff, but a team we really didn't see coming was the Giants.
Yeah, it's kind of on the other end of the spectrum. I don't think either of us had any faith in the Giants, and they put together
I'm not sure if I even had that team. I'm not sure if I had them finishing last in the division because I didn't really do that. I haven't started doing that until this year with college football and the NFL. I'm going to start doing it for other leagues as well. I'm going to do full. I have this team first, second, third, fourth, fifth in this division.
Yeah, I mean Kevin Gosman and guys like Kevin Gosman, guys like Mike Yastrzemski, guys like the resurgence that Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt and Buster Posey's always kind of been there, but what he's done, I mean, there's no way you could have convinced me that was going to happen. Mark Melanson had a great year as their closer. They had a really solid bullpen. I mean, they put together a season nobody saw coming, and they're the 1 seed. I mean, they're the best team in baseball.
At 107 wins.
107 wins for the San Francisco Giants.
That's insane. If you had told me they made the playoffs, I would have been like, oh, okay, as like the 5th team, the 3rd wild card or the 2nd wild card.
Yeah, no. You would not have convinced me that they won 107 games. No way.
I thought the Dodgers, of course, what's his name, getting put on the commissioner's list or whatever and basically banned from baseball, Trevor Bauer.
Yeah. I think that's the other kind of big like negative story that you have this year in baseball is what's going on with Bauer, and I don't think he's ever going to play again. I don't.
So it's a bunch of like what's going on with Deshaun Watson's sexual assault kind of allegations.
But the weird thing about Bauer is that when the story came out, it was all consensual, and she was down with it. And
I mean, that's how it always starts.
As the story kind of evolved, she's become not so okay with it, which, sure, women are allowed to do that, whatever. But, I mean, the way that the media, and I think the way that Trevor Bauer is, and his kind of confrontational style of pitching, and his confrontational media personality. I think
he's definitely a guy who sets
people,
or sets can come off the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
He was a complete. I listened to him on, I think, Pardon My Take for the first time, and it shocked me. I'm just letting. Which one is that? Can you tell yet?
It's Peter.
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 I was gonna say I'm gonna let one of them finish speaking. I couldn't think of their names. I knew Lucas was one. Peter was the other. Okay. But it surprised me how articulate he was in an interview. He was pretty well spoken, and it just wasn't what I expected. He kind of comes off as this loudmouth sort of hick, and he's really not that at all. And then these allegations come out, and you're like, ugh. Yikes.
Yeah. I guess the smart thing to do would be to like hold our comments until I guess he's going to trial. I mean, like, I don't know if this thing is anywhere near over because they keep, from what I understand, there's a case open in Orange County or whatever, Maricopa, wherever it was that the encounters took place. There's a case open there, but they're just like gathering evidence and have been for a while. So, I mean, while that's going on, Major League Baseball is certainly not going to let him pitch again.
Right.
And then they have a trial, and then whatever happens in that, I mean, it's bad for baseball because he, like I said, he is a dynamic kind of personality, and I mean, he's the reigning Cy Young Award winner. So I mean, like, he is a good pitcher, and people will pay to see him pitch, but he's also a good media presence, and I think what he was doing was good for the game, and then like his YouTube channel and that company and everything, and he's got a young agent who's really good at marketing her players and things like that. I mean, I think it's bad for baseball that he turns out to be a scumbag, but I mean, you know, it's certainly not a good look for him or baseball that he's probably not ever going to pitch again.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this doesn't turn into a Ray Rice thing where, I mean, say what you want. It certainly wasn't a good look for Ray Rice, even I will say that, but I thought it was a shame he never got another opportunity because it really did seem like a isolated incident, kind of.
Yeah, and you've seen that with other players that have been in this situation before. Kareem Hunt gets another chance. Adrian Peterson gets another chance. You know, there's Joe Mixon gets another chance. I mean, there's people up and down the list that have
I mean, Ray Rice, I think, is the only one to actually go in front of the media.
Yeah.
Confess what he's done was wrong with the woman right there beside him, his wife or fiance, whatever she was. Then they've since, I think, gone on and gotten married. I think have kids. I don't remember exactly, but like he at least faced up to it.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly a bad look, and it happening to a guy that was becoming a like face of baseball just makes it that much worse. When baseball is so hurting to have guys like that succeed, it's a bad look.
So let's look at some of the other teams that kind of came out of nowhere. It's not that the Rays came out of nowhere for me. I just didn't expect. I thought they would take a step back. I really did. And
we always talk
roll
about
off to win 100 games.
How well run the Rays are, though. I mean, it seems like what they do with almost seemingly no name talent. The way the organization, it almost seems like the organization runs through the GM and the manager because they pick people and they sign people and play people that fit the manager's scheme and the way he wants to play the game. And they go out and get people like that. And then they make savvy trades, trading away Willie Adames to get Wander Franco on the field every day and get two or three prospects from the Brewers was a masterful trade. It worked out well for both sides. Willie Adames had a great season in Milwaukee, but it set Tampa Bay up for 2 or 3 years down the road. And they can, I think they got 2 or 3 pitchers, which is just adding to the wealth of young pitching that they have. I mean, it's just the way that franchise runs is like a well-oiled machine. It just sucks that nobody watches them.
Yeah. Another team that kind of came out of nowhere, we didn't really expect it, was the Boston Red Sox, who brought back Alex Cora, which I didn't see coming after the whole Houston Astros scandal. And then I think I mentioned this the last time you were on. The dude must be just a genius. Winning 92 games.
The thing is that he's one of those guys that I think I kind of always knew I always knew was going to succeed because he's never done anything but baseball. His dad played in the majors, and he's just been around Major League Baseball for like 50 years. He played himself. He coached. He's he knows exactly how to win, and that's just all he does. Now, having talent that teams like Boston can get certainly doesn't hurt.
Really
now they're not
on the team that stands out like JD Martinez. Yeah. They got some other guys I can't think off the top of my head. Xander Bogaerts. I mean, they have some dudes.
Novak is a good player. Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers. I mean, these are all good players. They're certainly not the household names that you remember Red Sox teams having. There's not a Chris. Certainly, Chris Sale was hurt most of this year, came back and threw the ball well, but there wasn't a Chris Sale on the roster at the beginning of the year. There wasn't a Pedro Martinez or a David Ortiz or a Dustin Pedroia. There's not that, but that kind of shows you. Chaim Bloom is the GM, and getting Alex Cora back to run the team. Really, those two really mesh. And like I said, if you have a GM and a manager who are kind of running the same direction, you can really take a team with. You don't need to have the best talent in the world. You can put guys in the best position for them to succeed and watch it go. So, I mean, that's a recipe for success.
We got really no one in the NL that I'd want to talk about. I mean, Milwaukee kind of came out of nowhere.
We knew Milwaukee had the potential to do it. We just didn't know that they could put it all together.
Yeah, and St. Louis, I think I might have picked them to win the division. The East, I picked the Braves to win that division, so it's not really a surprise. The West, other than the Giants, kind of turned out the way I thought, except the Padres obviously falling off. Really all the surprises were in the AL, and then there are two teams I have yet to talk about. One is Toronto, who kind of did about what I thought, 91 and 71, but fourth in the AL East. But the big surprise was the Seattle Mariners, who I was surprised was even in the playoff picture come last weekend of the season.
Turned it on at the end of the year, and we're playing really good ball. Just came up, I think, a game short. Maybe a game and a half.
Two.
But was it 2? Okay.
90.
Yeah. Really put the pressure on Boston, on those teams from the East, because they were just playing winning ball.
Seattle's a team I like. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the history of suckiness. But I was kind of cheering for them to sneak into the playoffs.
I think a big thing about that is, like, when we were growing up, they had really awesome teams with, like, early in our years, it was King Griffey Jr. and A-Rod and Randy Johnson and Edgar Martinez, and then they kind of transitioned a little bit to guys like John Olerud and Ichiro and Brett Boone and those guys, and then they stunk for a long time. And now they've kind of done a rebuild in the way that you're supposed to do it, where they gather as much young talent as physically possible. Led by Wander Rodriguez and Jared Kalenic and Kyle Lewis and Corey Seager and Mitch Haniger as kind of like the elder statesman cornerstone type guys. And I mean, it's just they're doing it the right way, and it's good to see.
I don't know if you heard me. I think you mean Kyle Seager, unless Corey Seager has been traded.
You know what I meant.
All right, so let's get to some awards now, because I'm very curious what you have to say, because I honestly haven't paid that much attention to what's going on in baseball.
Yeah, so start American League. I think the MVP comes down to two candidates, and you could convince me either way that either is going to win. So it's Shohei Ohtani and Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Okay, yeah.
What Shohei Ohtani did kind of first half of the season was something that's never been seen before in baseball. He, I believe at the All-Star break, led the league in homers, was at or near the top in average, and led the league in strikeouts, and was at or near the top in ERA. and started the All-Star game at on the mound and had it back in the game. I mean, that doesn't
Did he
happen.
fall off a cliff? Because no one really talked about him after that.
He kind of did.
Yeah.
He went into a slump at the plate in the second half. I think he finished tied for the lead in homers. I think he had 46, but I mean, I think he had 30 at the break.
Yeah.
So I think in the second half, and I don't think he pitched a whole lot in the second half either. I think he ended with like a 9-2 record, like a 3.4 maybe ERA. I think he got beat around a little bit too when he was on the mound. It probably is some fatigue doing so much. But I mean, still having the kind of success that he did at the plate and on the mound has just never been seen before. And then Vlad Jr. damn near messed around and won a Triple Crown. Came in, I believe, third in batting average, tied for the lead in home runs, and second, I want to say, in RBIs. And that was basically a onslaught in the second half that got him there, and just about carried the Blue Jays to a playoff berth.
Yeah, because they got hot kind of out of nowhere.
In a tight AL East and then a tight wild card race. So, I mean, one of the two of them will win the MVP. It would not surprise me if it was either one of them, but I would probably go with Shohei just because it's just never been seen before.
Yeah.
The only way that Shohei wasn't going to win it is if Vlad won the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
And since he came up a little short, you got to give it to Shohei.
Would recency bias factor in? Because I feel like people would.
It could.
Yeah.
It could. Because Shohei because he came out so hot in the first
Right.
half. And then kind of tailed off.
Yeah, because I remember at the beginning of the year,
cold.
you could see Shohei Ohtani highlights all the time on social media, and I'm like, okay, this dude's for real.
Yeah.
And then, I haven't seen anything of him since the All-Star break.
It's nothing to say that he's not still doing things like that. It just wasn't as often, and the Angels were never in it, and I think that has something to do with it. And then the Jays then jumping into it, into the playoff hunt, kind of has something to do with it. So, like I said, if Vlad had won the Triple Crown, I don't think you could not give him the MVP. But since he didn't, I think you've got to give it to Shohei just because it's, like I said, it's just something that's never been seen.
What about the NL?
So the NL MVP is curious. There are probably 5 or 6 guys that could win it. You could look at a guy like Bryce Harper, who
he had a big year. I do remember that.
Huge year on a team that never was really out of it until like the last 2 weeks of the season, but was never kind of really in it. Nobody was ever really kind of talking about the Phillies.
They might have led the division for a little bit, but
maybe for a little bit, but certainly not in September.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was more what the Cardinals were doing and what the Padres were doing in the opposite direction. And just nobody really talked about the Phillies. But Bryce kind of somehow quietly put together a monster year.
Mm-hmm. I saw his OPS was over 1,000. So.
Yeah, and anytime you can do that in the Major League Baseball seat, like over a season, is absolutely bonkers. Boy.
I couldn't tell you anyone else. Like,
you could also look at somebody like a.
I've heard. I know that I come from a Reds family, but I've heard some chatter about Castellanos.
Castellanos could be up there. Joey Votto had a bounce back season after you've dogged him for 3 years.
I'm the middleman between what my brother says and the podcast.
So
my brother does dog him a lot.
and then there's the obvious picks in like Fernando Tatis Jr. had a monster year. It kind of sucks that it came in a year when the Padres absolutely fell apart, but he did everything he could do. And then you look at guys like and then you look at kind of unsung guys that not a whole lot of people talked about that I would think could win it, like a guy like Brandon Belt, who just was steady and led his team to a division championship. Certainly, you look at guys in LA. Cody Bellinger had a miserable year, but Max Muncy had a good year. I believe Seager had a pretty decent year. Trey Turner coming over from Washington and entrenching himself in the leadoff spot in the shortstop position, or I believe he may have played second base, but wherever he was playing, that could certainly be an option. Juan Soto had a great year for a horrible team. Maybe it's a homer pick of me, but Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt both really turned it on at the end of the season. Tyler O'Neill had a great year. There's a lot of guys that could win it. I think they'll probably give it to Bryce just because
he's the biggest name for sure.
He's the biggest name. He had a great year. If he led his team to the playoffs, they would absolutely give it to Bryce Harper. He would win the MVP 100%, no doubt in my mind. Because they didn't make the playoffs, I don't know if they'll go that direction. So, I mean, maybe it's a guy like Buster Posey or Brandon Belt, or maybe it's Max Muncy or Trey Turner or Castellanos, who had a huge year. The NL MVP is way harder to predict than the AL MVP because there's not just an absolute front runner in my estimation.
If you had $100 to bet on who the NL MVP would be, who would you put it on?
Bryce Harper.
I think that's a safe bet.
Bryce Harper. I mean, I think it's the safest pick. But like I said, I don't.
Baseball is honestly one of those sports where it doesn't really matter if your team was good as long as you had a great year.
Yeah. So I really like that you said that because buddy, there's a guy in the AL that I didn't mention who deserves to get some talking. Deserves to be talked about in the MVP discussion. Won't be because he played on a horrible team. But Salvador Perez had the best offensive year a catcher has ever had.
Yeah.
All time. No catcher has ever had a better offensive season than Salvador Perez had this year. But I believe the Royals lost 100 games, so he won't get anywhere close to the discussion. But people should talk about it. He'll win a Silver Slugger. He'll probably win a Gold Glove. But Salvador Perez had an outstanding year for the Kansas City Royals.
That's a good point. But baseball really is one of those sports. I've seen MVPs win that weren't necessarily on a playoff team. You know, Mike Trout's won MVP 3 or 4 times, and I think the Angels have made the playoffs 1 time in his career. So it happens. It's not that often. It's not like football where it usually goes to the best player on the best team, or the Heisman in college football, usually best player on the best team. So baseball usually is pretty good about that, which makes up – no, it doesn't make up for their Hall of Fame voting, but that's a whole different topic of conversation.
We're not getting to that today.
How about Cy Young?
So for the Cy Young – in the National League, there's 3 or 4 guys that I could think of that had a shot. Kevin Gausman for the San Francisco Giants had a great year. Corbin Burns for the Brewers had a great year. Zach Wheeler for the Phillies had a great year. And then I'm going to throw Adam Wainwright in because of what he did and how old he is. He won't win it.
I saw he signed a 1-year extension, though.
He did. $15 million to pitch at 40, but let's not talk about it. But those other 3 guys, Corbin Burns especially, and I think it'll be Corbin Burns that ends up winning the Cy Young. All 3 of them, Zach Wheeler a little bit less than the other 2, but all 3 of them kind of came out of nowhere.
The Corbin, what is it? Burns.
Corbin Burns.
He pitches for Milwaukee, correct?
Yeah, Milwaukee. And he had 2 other teammates that could get talked about it too. Freddie Peralta and my God, he just pitched against us like 2 weeks ago. Oh God, there's a third starting pitcher for the Brewers that I can't think of right now, but was right there with them in terms of ERA and strikeouts per nine and things like that. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of guys that you may not really think about at the beginning of the year when you're thinking about, like, okay, it's going to be Scherzer or it's going to be Walker Buehler or it's going to be Jack Flaherty or it's going to be, one of the usual names. All of these guys kind of came out of nowhere to put up monster numbers and get themselves into the discussion. Max Scherzer could certainly win it. He had a great year. But I think it's 1-2 probably Burns and Gosman. I'll give a slight edge to Corbin Burns.
What about in the AL?
I didn't. AL's a little bit tough. I think the guy that should win it is Robbie Ray in Toronto. I don't know who will win it though. Lance Lynn has an argument in Chicago. Who else? Man, AL.
It's thin, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie Ray would probably be my pick. I don't love it, but I just don't know of anybody that had a year that nobody stands out, I should say, in from the AL. If Shohei had continued to do what he did, I would have told you that Shohei's going to win it. But I don't think that he's certainly not going to anymore. Garrett Cole has a chance. He had a decent year. But I think what Robbie Ray was able to do in Toronto, like that's kind of another guy that kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody was really talking about him in the beginning of the year. It's always Garrett Cole and really only Garrett Cole because the Yankees are the only people that play in the American League.
I'm listening, by the way. I'm pulling something up that I'm definitely going to touch on when you're done.
Yeah.
What about Rookie of the Year? In both? No idea?
My wife is lobbying for Dylan Carlson or Lars Nootbaar for the St. Louis Cardinals. In the National League, oh boy. Let's see.
I'll go ahead and reveal what I've pulled up here, and it was odds from Vegas to win every single award that we've talked about.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you right now, Steven, excluding the Rookie of the Year stuff because you haven't said yet, you're on the money for all of them. So in the NL, Bryce Harper is the favorite to win NL MVP at -275, followed by Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., and then Paul Goldschmidt, although he's a distant fourth at +5,000. In the AL, it is Shohei Ohtani at -5,000, so heavy favorite. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. follows him at 1,200. Those are the only two options. In the Cy Young, let's start in the AL. Robbie Ray at -600, and then followed by Garrett Cole at +500, Lance Lynn +3,000, and then Carlos Rodon at +8,000, and then NL, Corbin Burns at -175, followed by Max Scherzer at +165, Walker Buehler +2,500, and then Zach Wheeler at +3,000. So you're pretty much on the money so far.
Good. Maybe I haven't paid attention.
I'm curious. I wanted to see how you stack up, and you've done very well. So let's shift over to the Rookie of the Year, where if you're wrong, I'm not going to fault you for it because it's hard to predict these things.
Rookie of the year is a little bit more difficult to predict. Yeah. Wander Franco had a good year in Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Adolis Garcia had a good year in Texas.
Okay.
Trying to think. I wonder. I don't think Kalinic's a rookie anymore, so he can't be a rookie of the year.
I think he was my preseason pick. He might be. He's not on here.
I would probably go. I remember Adolis Garcia had a huge first half, but I think he's kind of tailed off a little bit. And I know Adames was traded from the Rays in May, and Wander Franco has basically been every day since then and has been really, really productive. I believe he hits first or second in their lineup. So I'll go with Wander Franco for the AL. And I just remembered the NL one is like a runaway, and there's only one guy to pick. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But, yeah, I think Wander, because what Wander can do, he's a five-tool guy. He can play the field, run the bases, hit for power, hit for average. He is, I believe, 20 or 21. I mean, he's the face,
he's young, for sure,
future of the Tampa Bay Rays if they can keep him around, which is never
honestly, though, they don't really keep people around.
Yeah, but that's what I was about to say. It's never really that's always a question, I should say. When was the last time they, usually an organization can pay one dude a good contract, but when was the last time Tampa honestly did that? I don't think they ever really paid him, but Evan Longoria was there for a long time.
Yeah, you're right.
But, I mean, like I said, I don't think they ever really gave him a huge contract.
And I don't mean like a $300 million deal. I just mean like he was there a long time, outside of his rookie or club control years.
Outside of a rookie contract into arbitration. Yeah, I mean, Evan Longoria is basically the only example there. But what he can do works so well with what Kevin Cash wants to do. And Kevin Cash loves managing in Tampa, or for the Rays, I shouldn't say in Tampa.
Is there a better gig than managing baseball in Florida?
Probably not, no. I mean, let's be honest. I wouldn't want to be the manager of the Marlins right now, but you could definitely pay me less than what Kevin Cash gets, and I would be more than happy to be the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays. But yeah, I mean, I just think he works so well with what Kevin Cash wants to do, and like I said, that organization runs so well because they run everything through front office and manager. And the team is suited so well for the way that he wants to play the game. So, Wander Franco would probably be my pick. And then in the National League, I totally forgot about him because he beat the shit out of the Cardinals all year. But what Jonathan India did for the Cincinnati Reds was incredible. Batting leadoff and I believe hitting like 280.
I know he had a big year.
Is the runaway favorite to win the National League Rookie of the Year. Former Florida Gator, watched him play in college. I believe won a national championship with Florida. So, I mean, knows how to win. And moved over to the other side of the diamond. Came up as a third baseman, but Cincinnati had a spot for him at second base, and he said, "I'll learn how to play second base. Let's go play, and let me hit." And did exactly that and hit to the tune of, like I said, I think 270, 280.
So you are on the money, just about. Just about. You were 5 for 6.
Oh, damn. Who's the favorite? It's the AL Rookie of the Year, right?
AL Rookie of the Year. Wander Franco is on the list, but he's third. He's plus 700. Another guy that you named, Adolis Garcia, also on the list at plus 800. So you're 2 for 2 in there. But another Tampa Bay Ray is the favorite, and it's Randy Arozarena. At minus 185, followed by Ryan Mountcastle at plus 425, and then Luis Garcia at plus 1,800.
He for the Orioles.
Yes.
He plays for the Orioles, right? Yeah. He had a good year. Nobody cares about the Orioles because they stink.
Yeah,
but
for real.
he had a good year on a bad team, which you see a lot in like rookie of the years.
Right.
You'll see a lot of guys that had impacts on bad teams because they get an opportunity to play because the team's so bad. So that doesn't surprise me, but
yeah, Baltimore finished 52-110, same record as the Arizona Diamondbacks. So those were the worst two teams in the league, right? Yeah. What's weird is it's such a drop off. Baltimore and who did I say? Arizona, 110, and then the third team or the bottom three, and then is Texas at 60-102. So
they're 10 games better
there.
than the worst. I mean, they get rewarded with the number 3 pick, but finish 10 games, essentially 10 games ahead of Arizona and Baltimore. That's crazy.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into some predictions. The field is set. Let's start with tomorrow night's game. We're recording this on Monday. Big game. I texted you when it was official. Boston and New York. Going to be highly entertaining for a one-game playoff.
One game in Fenway. It's going to be a hell of a ball game to watch.
I don't think the pitchers have been announced last I checked.
I don't think they have either. It wouldn't surprise me if New York throws Garrett Cole.
On ESPN, the probable starters that they have, one is Garrett Cole, the other is Nathan Eovaldi. Boston.
It'll be all hands on deck for both teams.
Right. Those one-game playoffs are fun.
I think
it's like Game 7. Those are fun.
Yeah, it really is. I think New York just got Luis Severino back, and I think he's been kind of coming out of the bullpen, just like stretching out, doing anything here, anything there. So I think if they have him ready, if he can go, he can give them an inning if they need it, get out of a jam or something. That's good because his stuff plays, even if he's not starting the game. But I don't trust the Yankees, and that sounds crazy, but
honestly, is it that crazy? Because we have hyped this team up since 2017. They're going to be the next big thing in baseball, and they haven't sniffed the World Series.
No, never shown us anything.
So I don't think that's crazy.
Championship Series, I believe.
Yeah, they made it to the ALCS once or twice.
By the Astros, if I remember correctly.
That year was how it started, and everyone was like, oh, look at the Yankees. Oh, they're coming up. And then they've maybe made the ALCS once or twice after that. But they really haven't been close to winning a World Series, let alone appearing in one.
Yeah, and they've been kind of injury-stricken a little bit.
Yeah,
Aaron Judge has not been healthy for a couple of years. Giancarlo Stanton has not been healthy. Gary Sanchez has really declined. And then Severino going down last year, I believe, to Tommy John, and finally coming back. That's a big hit. And then their bullpen not being as good as I thought they were going to be is certainly has to do with it. But at the end of the day, what we thought they were going to be is this team that just pummels teams into oblivion. Mm-hmm. And they just weren't that. They went through spells this year where they could not hit the baseball. And
that's what happens with
that. You can't do that. You can't have spells where you're big boppers and your guys that's
the problem with their lineup. And they can mash it, but they'll also strike out just as many times.
Yeah, they will. And then they went and got the biggest, the I believe, single season record holder for strikeouts, and Joey Gallo, which made zero sense to me. I understand that he can hit the ball 700 feet, but
that's their entire lineup. It's just guys who can hit it 700 feet and then strike out about 100 times a year.
That's not what you want to add in a team that already has a strikeout problem. I didn't understand that move at the time. I don't understand it now, and it makes me not. Like I said, I just don't trust them, and I think the Red Sox are going to win the game. Because
I'm very glad you said that, because I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm leaning the Red Sox at the moment, although Garrett Cole worries me a little bit. But the Red Sox
know how to hit Garrett Cole. They see him 3 or 4 times a year. It's not. it's not like
Boston is also a very good offensive team. They lead the league, or not lead the league, but they're in the top 10 in a lot of offensive categories. The Yankees aren't. One game playoff, give me Alex Cora over Aaron Boone any day of the week.
Oh, yeah. 100%. They're kind of the cut from the same cloth type of manager. Aaron Boone, his brother played, his dad played, his uncle played. He's from a baseball family. He's been around baseball for 900 years. But he just doesn't – I don't think he has it.
I don't think he's that much – he's that good of a manager.
I don't think he has it. I think Cora – I think he was a catcher. He may have been middle infielder. But Aaron Boone played third base. You don't see a whole lot of third base managers. I mean, it seems like he doesn't make the right moves at the right time, especially in bullpen management. He's had a problem with that before, leaving – either putting in Aroldis Chapman too early, leaving him in too long, overusing him in series. That's been a problem. I don't think he has it. And because of that, and because every finite detail in a one-game do-or-die situation is magnified by 100, you take the better manager first, you take the lineup that you trust more, and you take the guys that are going to field the ball better, and that's the Boston Red Sox.
So now I got to flip it the other way now that you say that.
Okay.
Your St. Louis Cardinals and the Los Angeles Dodgers in a one-game playoff in the NL. I'm very curious. I'm not making fun of you for it, but you are a very biased fan.
I am, yeah.
Can you say the same thing about your St. Louis Cardinals?
Blatant homerism. I can. I really can.
Okay.
The thing is, if the Cardinals had not gone on the streak that they just got off, if they had not won 17 consecutive games in the month of September, this would be a very easy. I love the Cardinals, but there's no way they're competing with the Dodgers pick.
No, you're 100% right. Cardinals are scorching hot
because they're the hottest team in baseball. Adam Wainwright's on an 8 days of rest. The Dodgers just lost Clayton Kershaw. He's not going to pitch in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Max Muncy on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's a big blow to the middle of their lineup. Now, certainly they've got guys that can fill in.
Yeah, and Scherzer can pitch, certainly, too.
Seager, Justin Turner. Bellinger's had a miserable year, but he can still hit. Will Smith, their catcher. I mean, it's not like they don't have guys that can fill in. But a smart bettor would pick the Cardinals here because you can get good odds. Because the Dodgers were the better team for 150 games, probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't go by the record here.
No. I think I so badly wish that Game 163 was happening today with Los Angeles and San Francisco because Max Scherzer was going to throw the Game 163. And then without Kershaw, it would have been either Walker Buehler on short rest, because he pitched on Saturday, or Julio Urias. And I'll take my chances with Julio Urias over the other two. That's not going to happen, but St. Louis has had success against Max Scherzer in the past. Of course, he could go out there and throw eight shutout and just completely shove, and the Dodgers will win the game 2-0. But I don't think you can discount how hot, especially the top of the Cardinals lineup is. Tommy Edman, Paul Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, Nolan Arenado, Dylan Carlson in his own respect, Yachty in his own respect, and then how Adam Wainwright's throwing the ball. And then how our bullpen is throwing the ball right now, too. You're not going to like it, Shane, but I'm picking the Cardinals to win. It's not going to surprise you.
Well, I'll be honest. I was 50-50 on it from the get-go. It's hard to not pick against the Dodgers. I've said that before. But you're right. I mean, they're a little banged up. Although Kershaw's hurt, I don't think that's that big of a difference for this game.
But it would have been – it's like I said in the AL, it's going to be all hands on deck for both teams. you could certainly have seen Clayton Kershaw coming out. If Max Scherzer gets in trouble, they need to get a lefty out. Clayton Kershaw is probably the best left-handed pitcher on that team. You could absolutely see him coming in and getting that out. He's not going to be able to do that anymore now. They've got arms that can do that, but not arms of the caliber of Clayton Kershaw. And then Max Muncy is a middle of the order bat. Playing first base is not like he's playing all over the place like he used to, but you're going to put Albert Pujols out there. Albert Pujols is my favorite baseball player of all time. I love Albert Pujols with every fiber of my being.
Look, you're not biased or wrong saying he's not what he used to be.
He's 41 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not what he used to be. So I think
we've known that for like really 10 years now.
Yeah,
since he left St. Louis.
Yeah. It's all setting up perfectly for the Cardinals to shock the world, and it really wouldn't be all that shocking if you pay attention to go into Los Angeles and win a baseball game.
I'll tell you what, I said I was 50-50, and before we got on the podcast here, I was leaning Dodgers, even though I wasn't really that confident in it, but I think you've swayed me the other way. So I'm going to go the Cardinals are a team I can trust in the postseason. It's not like it's the Rockies.
I like we're betting on the Twins here.
Yeah, or the Twins. But no, I didn't know that the Cardinals were that hot. I knew they were hot. I didn't realize they had won 17 games in a row. Hard to pick against that. Wainwright on a lot of rest. Hard to pick against that. So I will agree. I'll go Cardinals there too. So let's.
And it always kind of seems like the wild card games, especially, they all play out exactly the way you don't expect them to happen. I believe it was 2014. Yeah, I guess it would have been, or 15, when Kansas City was the team that kind of limped into the wild card game.
That was 14.
Was it 14 when they beat the A's in the?
Because in 2015 they were the 1 seed and kind of steamrolled through.
That's right. But they kind of limped in, and the A's were hot. And lo and behold, Kansas City Royals put together a masterful performance and won a game. You look at games like the Rockies beat the Cubs a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was very surprising.
The Giants beat the Pirates 4 or 5 years ago in a game nobody saw coming that was in Pittsburgh. It's almost like kind of it's not really the best team that wins. It's either the hotter team or it's just a weird game and something happens.
Baseball's already a fickle, weird sport anyway. You factor in a 1-game playoff or anything goes. Like all bets are off.
Wacky shit is sure to ensue.
Yeah, so we're on the same page. Let's go back to the AL. We'll go to the ALDS. 1 seed Tampa Bay Rays against what we have. Both have Boston Red Sox in the ALDS. I feel like you got to go Rays.
Yeah, I think you do. I think convention, while it's kind of thrown out the window in the wild card game, once you get to a series,
like Boston has well managed and has some talent. That Tampa Bay is also really well managed and has some talent. So hard to bet against the.
And I don't trust the kind of back half of Boston's starting rotation.
Why is this game in a lightning delay? This Monday Night Football game? We're in a dome, for crying out loud.
It's lightning, Shane.
It's a dome.
I'll get that out. That's dumb.
It's a dome. What are we doing here?
That's dumb. I don't know what to tell you there. Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay just has certainly the recent success that I don't think this year many of this year's Red Sox were on the team that won in 2019 or 2018.
A few were, but yeah.
JD Martinez, maybe, but.
The Rays remind me a little bit. It's funny you mentioned them. That 14-15 Kansas City Royals team snuck into the wild card in 2014, got hot, went to the World Series, almost won that World Series. I don't remember if the Rays were a wild card last year or not, but regardless, they got to the World Series, put up a tough fight against. Well, no, there was no wild card. It was 18. It was a 16-team playoff last year.
Yeah, but they I believe they still won their division.
Yeah, I think they were the 1 seed now that I think about it. But got to the World Series, threw everything really but the kitchen sink at the Dodgers, and the Dodgers were just better.
Yeah.
Just eerily, I feel like eerily similar to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like I said, everything is so not as much as in a one-game playoff, but in the playoffs, certainly everything is just so magnified. And having a coach like Kevin Cash that is just a masterpiece, a mastermind in-game management, I think is such a huge plus for Tampa Bay. So I don't think I'll ever not pick against Tampa Bay.
You say that until we get into a later round.
Yeah, until later rounds, I think especially in short series where he can really dominate with his game management. Give me the Rays. I think in 4 in that series.
So the other ALDS game, I'm very intrigued by Houston and the Chicago White Sox. Originally, Steven, before I did some research, I was gonna just pencil in the Astros. White Sox are young. I was like, I don't know if it's their year. So I penciled in Astros, playoff experience. Then I looked up some numbers. And I'm now leaning toward the White Sox.
So here's the thing. The White Sox breezed through the AL Central because the rest of the team stunk. But the way that their team is put together is built for postseason success. Mm-hmm. They've got 2 or 3, 2 definitely, maybe 3 starters that they absolutely trust to throw out at any time. Lance Lynn and Carlos Rodon, they trust to throw at any time. They've got 2 back of the bullpen arms that can lock people down in Craig Kimbrell and Liam Hendricks. Craig Kimbrell hasn't thrown the ball well since he made the trip to the South Side, but he's still Craig Kimbrell. Can still lock anybody down whenever he wants to. And then Liam Hendricks is probably going to get some votes for the Cy Young this year. That's how good of a year he had, but it's just not going to go to relief pitcher anymore.
Did you even say Lucas Giolito yet?
Is bonkers. Giolito, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I asked, had you said his name? I don't think you had yet.
No, I had. He kind of tailed off toward the end of the year. Didn't finish as strong as he wanted to. But he's, like I said, that's that third pitcher that I would trust to throw out. White Sox fans would probably trust to throw out. Maybe your average fan who doesn't watch and just knew that he threw a no-hitter.
The ALD or the DS series in general, if you have 2 really good arms, it's hard to pick against that.
They can carry, they can absolutely.
Because then all you need is 1 win, or 1 out of 3 to move on. Is that right? Yeah, 1 out of 3.
You really shorten the series if you have 2 guys that you trust to throw out there. And I think that the White Sox do. And they've got the best manager.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up, yeah.
Because he is an active Hall of Famer.
You're right, yeah.
Hall of Fame and coaching.
Yeah.
And he's in the Hall of Fame because of what he did in St. Louis and what he did in Oakland, and before that, what he did in Chicago with the White Sox in the 70s.
Was it with the White Sox?
Yeah, his first managing job was with the White Sox.
I was just thinking about that, literally just thinking about that the other day. Like, I was like, what's he doing managing the White Sox? Like, I knew he obviously had taken the job, a year ago. And then I'm like, man, what would force him to come out of retirement? I'm like, he has no connection to the White Sox. And then there you go.
Yeah. He was the – if you know about the weird shit that the White Sox did in the 70s, Tony La Russa was the manager for some of that. Like destruction of Disco Night and the night they wore shorts in a game. We could have a whole podcast about the weird shit that the White Sox did in the 70s. I won't get into it now, but Mr. Comiskey was a weird dude.
Was
and
he
just
the owner?
wanted people to come to the game and spend money. So he did some weird stuff.
I remember when I lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we moved up there. you had to drive through Chicago. And
Yeah.
right through the whatever interstate that is that cuts through Chicago, you drive right by the White Sox ballpark. And I remember when it was Comiskey Park, and I'm kind of let down to know that it's no longer called that.
Yeah, I've had that problem with now that
honestly, we'll get to the Brewers in a minute, but same with them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We watch a lot of Brewers Cardinals games, and them not calling it Miller Park is just so weird to me.
It feels wrong. We can get that. We get into that in a bit, though.
But I mean, what Tony La Russa can do is outmanage anybody he's up against, no matter who it is. I don't care. I don't care if you put the ghost of Casey Stengel out there. He will outmanage anybody that's on the other side of the field.
And you know my feelings about Dusty Baker.
Yeah, he does not care. And
he's just not that good. He's fine, but he's not that good. He's not going to take you very far in the postseason.
The World Series, no. And they hate each other, which is hilarious.
Really? I'm very interested in seeing the series.
So when Tony was manager of the Cardinals and Dusty Baker was manager of the Reds, they had some knockdown, drag-out fights, and they do not like each other. But, yeah, I mean, it's just – I mean, like you said, the Astros – could very easily on talent and playoff experience alone compete or win the series. But I don't think that they have the starting pitching to compete. And I think their lineup is getting old. Carlos Correa's got a foot out the door already. Has already said publicly that he's not signing back with the Astros. 2021 is his last year. So, I mean, all of that adds up to a 3-0 sweep for the White Sox for me.
I don't know if I'll go 3-0, but I live deep in Astros territory. So every time, I haven't been to the bar in a while, but when I would go to the bar on a Wednesday or Tuesday night, 6 o'clock rolled around, they would have the Astros on, and a lot of Astros fans down here. So I'll probably be in trouble if I pick against the Astros, but I'm going to do it anyway. White Sox have pitching, a great bullpen, better manager. That almost always leads, I think, to a series win.
They can field the ball better. They play better defense. They Tony La Russa will not handle anybody not using fundamentals. So yeah, I mean, it's an easy pick. I mean, I think it's like I said. I think it's the White Sox this week.
Shift over to the NL. We both have your St. Louis Cardinals going up against the San Francisco Giants. Does the road end here? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's easy to pick the Giants.
Right.
Best record in baseball. You kind of forget about this, but their catcher, their first baseman, and their shortstop have
3.
Either 8 or 9 World Series rings between the 3 of them.
Oh, really? Have they played for other teams?
Because I think they played for – I mean, I know that Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford each have 3.
Oh, you're counting them all individually. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have players that know how to play in the postseason.
Right.
I don't know if they have – after Kevin Gausman, I don't know if they have starting pitching that I trust. I don't.
You know, the Giants, I give them a lot of credit. They've been a great story, and we kind of talked about it back in July. Like, they are what they are at this point. You know, I think they're legit, you know, and that was back in July. But I've always had a feeling that they just don't seem right. You know?
Yeah, it's just not gonna add up. It's kind of like
a team that comes out of nowhere hardly ever wins the World Series. Granted, the Red Sox did that in 2018. Kind of came out of nowhere and won the World Series and blew it out of the water.
But you look at that team. Let's compare them to the Red Sox.
Yeah.
You look at that team. They had Chris Sale. They had Rodriguez. I can't remember. I don't remember what the hell's name was. But they had him. They had a guy at the back of the bullpen. They had J.D. Martinez. They had Mookie Betts. They had
those 2 guys were like the 1 and 2 in the MVP race too.
Yeah, I mean, like, I did it. I think Mike Yastrzemski's a great baseball player. I think he's going to be really good. I think, like I said, I think Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt had really good bounce back years. I just don't know if they've. I don't know what it is, but it's just a feeling that they're just not going to kind of see it through.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I've seen this before with other teams. Like I remember back in 2011 and maybe 2014 too. I think the Nationals had the number one overall home field advantage in the NL, 1 seed, had the pitching, had Bryce Harper, and even in those 2 years, I was like, I don't see it. I don't know why, I just didn't see it.
I remember 2012, the Cardinals beat them in DS in 5 games because of that, because they had one pitcher and Bryce Harper and Zimmerman and Jason Worth were playing for them, and that was really kind of it. And there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, and then the Cardinals were just the Cardinals. They had pitching, they had defense, they had bullpen, they had all the pieces that you want, and they beat them in a 5-game series. And I think that it may end up being the same because and listen, the Cardinals don't have world beater starting pitchers anymore, but what they do have is guys that use what they have, and that's a great defense. The best defense in baseball in terms of numbers.
I think the Cardinals are probably going to have trouble with teams that do have really stellar pitching.
Yeah,
I'm just not convinced that the Giants have reliable guys come postseason. We'll see, but
I totally I agree with you, and that's why I think if they don't sweep the Cardinals in 3, Kevin Gausman doesn't go out and blow them away in Game 1, and then Game 2 and Game 3 they don't win. I think the Cardinals win in 5. I really do. I think, like I said, I think them being the hottest team in baseball is going to come into account. You know, they're hitting the ball, they're fielding the ball, bullpen's throwing really well. They've got like I said, starting pitchers are not going to blow anybody away. It's Adam Wainwright, it's John Lester, it's Jay Happ, and it's Miles Mikolas. Those 4. Of those 4, Miles Mikolas is the only one that can throw the ball over 95 miles an hour and doesn't do it all that often.
What happened to Flaherty? Is he hurt?
Flaherty's hurt. He's coming out of the bullpen. He'll be on the postseason roster, and they can use him kind of however they want. He could be an opener and throw an inning or 2. He could come in and bridge the gap to this bullpen that's pitched out of their minds in the last month. He can do a lot of different things. But, I mean, if it was flipped, if the Dodgers had won the West and the Cardinals had beaten the Giants in the –
yeah, I think that would be trouble.
It would be an easy pick for the Dodgers to win the division series because over a series, they're way better equipped to beat teams than a 1 game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the stars are lining up for the Cardinals to make a pretty deep run here. So I'm with you. I think Cardinals in about 4 or 5. I think that's going to be a pretty competitive series. Last DS matchup is Milwaukee and Atlanta. I was kind of torn, and honestly, like the Houston-Chicago series, I started off thinking or penciling in one team, and I've since kind of changed my mind.
So were you penciling in Braves?
No, I was penciling in the Brewers.
Brewers, yeah. I mean, what the Brewers have for them is, like I said, 3 pitchers that they will run out. Brandon Woodruff is the other one. Just remembered it. Is the other starting pitcher. 3 pitchers that they will run out that they think they can win every game that they pitch.
Yeah, no, and that's really hard to pick against. And I just said if you have 2 really good arms, you're going to have a great chance of winning in the division
Freddie
series.
Peralta is coming off an injury a little bit. He wasn't as effective down the stretch. The Cardinals touched him up twice. I think he had a bad start against the Cubs. I mean, so maybe you have a little bit less faith in him than the other 2, but the other 2 can absolutely shove whenever they want. The Braves have a really underrated lineup outside of guys that you think of. Obviously, they don't have Ronald Acuna. So it's been guys like Austin Riley and Adam Duvall, and
I
really
honestly did not know Acuna wasn't even playing.
Not Freddie Freeman like you would think, and not Ozzie Albies like you would think. It's been Austin Riley and Duvall and Dansby Swanson to an extent, and other guys like that have really stepped up. I believe Adam Duvall or maybe Riley.
Adam Duvall
led the league in RBIs this year. I mean, I think he had like 115 RBIs. I mean, but I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, it comes down to, especially in the postseason, pitching, defense, timely hitting. And I think the Brewers have that. I think in the starting rotation, like I said, they absolutely have the advantage. The bullpen took a hit with Devin Williams punching a wall and breaking his hand, but Josh Hader at the back is as good as anybody in the league. And I just don't think the Braves have and they also kind of stumbled into the postseason. The NL East was a disaster this year, almost.
They had one. I think I saw like 14 of their last 17 games, 14 of their last 16. I mean, they're hot. I mean, again, this is another one. I wouldn't look at the record and pick the team.
I couldn't. You couldn't have. I couldn't tell you what the Braves had done down the stretch. But if they're hot, I mean that changes things a little bit. But still, I don't know if they've got the horses on the mound to match up with what Milwaukee is bringing you. So I would take Milwaukee in 4.
I think you changed my mind again.
Action.
I just said it, and I should stick with it. If you have 2 really good arms, and the Brewers certainly have that, you're going to be set up to win at least a division series. I'm not sure I trust the Brewers' offense, which is not great. I mean, I think I saw that they're in near the bottom of the league in batting average and slugging percentage and a few other stats.
You're relying on Abisail Garcia and Willie Adames and Lorenzo Cain is hitting like 5th in that lineup. Christian Yelich has not been Christian Yelich in the least bit, and I believe he's hitting 3rd. So I mean, their lineup is not good. They've been winning games by completely dominating on their mound, and that scares me a little bit because the Braves, when they're right, can absolutely obliterate teams. Like you said, I think if you have 2 or 3 guys you trust to give the ball and say, go win me a game, I think that goes a long way in the postseason. So, Brewers and call it 4.
Yeah. And the Braves, honestly, they're kind of like a team you just can't really trust in the postseason.
No, they're really becoming that,
And,
lose series that they have no business losing.
I mean, this is back in the 90s when they were loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, how many World Series did they go to? Quite a few. 2 or 3.
3, 4.
We grew up in Braves country.
Yeah. I mean, they went to 1 in 91, went to 1 in 95.
Yep.
Went to 2, I believe, led the Yankees in 2. Lost.
It's at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 that they went to in the 90s.
And how many first ballot Hall of Famers were on those? At least 4 first ballot Hall of Famers on those teams.
I don't know about first ballot, but definitely 4 Hall of Famers, right? The 3 pitchers and Chipper Jones.
Maybe John Smoltz wasn't a first ballot, but Chipper, Greg Maddux, and Tom Glavine definitely were.
Yeah, 3 pitchers and then Chipper Jones. 4 Hall of Famers on that team.
Man.
When you have 3 Hall of Fame pitchers and a hitter like Chipper Jones, like, you just got to ask, how did you not win more?
Crazy.
I'm not crazy about it. I'm not confident in it, but I'll go with the Brewers as well. I'm cheering for the Brewers.
That's definitely the least confident I am in any series.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's
one I feel like could go either way.
Let's shift over to the ALCS now. We both have the Rays and the White Sox. I'm almost certain I said this in the preseason. I might not have, But the White Sox strike me this year as what the Yankees were in 2017, a really young team that is just not there yet.
They're like a year early.
Yeah.
Is what it looks like.
And the Rays feel like the Houston Astros. Granted, I didn't think this at the time, but now they feel like the Houston Astros. This feels like their time to shine. Going up against a young team that's about a year early. I'm leaning the Rays. I wonder what you think.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree and the only reason I disagree is because of Tony La Russa.
Okay.
Because yes, the White Sox are in this schedule probably a year, maybe even two early. This is really the first year of Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson, all those guys.
I like calling him Luis Robert more.
I want to so bad. It just sounds so much better.
I feel like we've said this before.
We've had this stuff every time we talk about it. We've had this discussion. But what Tony La Russa can do and how he can lead a team really puts me over. We talk about Kevin Cash all the time.
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for Kevin Cash and what he can do with a ball club, but he's not a Hall of Famer. Yet. Okay. Yeah. If they happened to run into the Red Sox, or not the Red Sox, the Astros. If the Astros happened to beat the White Sox in the DS, I think the Rays win in 4 or 5 in the championship series. If it's the Rays and the White Sox, I think I have to go with the White Sox because the teams match up pretty well. Starting pitching, lineup, bullpen, defense. But you have to give the edge in coaching to Tony La Russa. And with that, I mean, I see it going 6 or 7. It's going to be a really good series. But at the end of the day, having Tony La Russa in your dugout puts you over the edge for me. So, yeah, give me Chicago in 6 or 7.
Okay. I'm not sure you've swayed me. You've swayed me quite a few times tonight. But I'm going to stick with the Rays. I do feel like this is feels like their year.
They have every capability in the world to do it. Yeah. I'm not saying that the Rays could not win the series. They absolutely can. Like you said, like we've said all night, they have the pieces, and the team and the manager puts them in the best situations for them to be successful. And I think that goes so far in a organization where it's not you're just playing guys because you're paying them a whole bunch of money to play a position, but you're playing guys, they've all bought in, and you're playing guys in the best positions and in the best situations for them. And I think that, like I said, I think that goes a long way. But, yeah, I mean, it's a toss-up. I mean, it really is kind of 50-50.
I will say this. I'm not sure the Rays – granted, I've wondered this before, if the Rays are just one of those teams where they're just so – I don't know about young, but they're guys who are just kind of starting out in their career and give it another 10 years, and we're like, man, that team was loaded.
Yeah.
But they seem to lack that star power, and I'm really only saying this because we assume the White Sox have that star power, but it's kind of the same deal. Maybe in another 10 years, we're like, man, that White Sox team was stacked.
Yeah. I mean, it's names – for Tampa Bay, it's names that you don't hear, but – that you know, or if you follow baseball closely enough, that you know are just good at what they do. I mean, Brandon Lau plays second base for the Rays, hit 39 home runs this year.
Wow.
I mean, Wander Franco has been a great rookie and really locked down the shortstop position. Kevin Kiermaier still plays outstanding Gold Glove center field and can get a timely hit when you need him to. I mean, it's like I said, it's not guys that that jump off the page at you that are making $100 million or $200 to $300 million. It's guys that, like I said, they they're put in a position by the front office and the manager to win baseball games, and that's what they're good at. I mean, that's the best. I think it's the best compliment that you can pay to a team is that they're just good at winning baseball games. It's not flashy. It's not, it's not media and super overhyped. It's just they're consistent. They win baseball games, and that's all you got to do. And they're one of the best at it.
All right. Now we head over to the National League or the NLCS, and we have the same NLCS. Your St. Louis Cardinals against the Milwaukee Brewers. This is tough. I just said a minute ago that the minute that St. Louis runs into some really stellar pitching, I think they're in trouble. However, I'm not sure Milwaukee's offense is good enough to win at all.
Yeah.
Even.
I mean, so Milwaukee kind of shut down at the end of the year, granted. But the Cardinals went to Milwaukee and swept a four-game series in mid-September. Then the Brewers came to St. Louis, and St. Louis won the first two games, and the second game clinched the playoff spot, and then the third game they didn't care about and played everybody off the bench and still almost won. And so, I mean, the problem is, for the Cardinals at least, like we've been saying all night, pitching and defense in the postseason is king. Managing is king. And I think Craig Counsell is one of the best at it, who doesn't get talked about a whole lot. Let's make sure we say that. Craig Counsell played in the league for a billion years, knows how to win, was around a lot of winning teams, won 2 World Series as a player. I want to say scored, and I think on both of those teams scored in a walk-off hit in Game 7, which is crazy to think about.
Was he on that Arizona Diamondbacks team in 2001?
01 Diamondbacks team. And
that's one Game 7 World Series that I can think of that was walk-off.
He was on the 97 Florida Marlins, I believe, that won in a walk-off against the Indians. I think he scored that. He either scored or hit, or was the hit or something. He had something to do with it. But, I mean, like you said, I don't know if they've got the offense to keep up with – if St. Louis continues to hit the way they are, I don't know if they've got the offense to keep up with it. And at some point, offense has to play. It can't be all pitching and defense. And – I mean, I picked the Cardinals to win the World Series at the beginning of the year because I was so happy that we got.
You did. I remember
that we got Nolan Arenado. And I thought everything was going to be fine and dandy, and then we lost like 912 starting pitchers, and everything went to hell. But I mean, if it shakes out this way, I think I would be dumb to not pick the Cardinals because they're the hottest team in baseball.
Yep.
They're playing the best baseball. They feel better than Milwaukee. They've got enough pitching, especially in the bullpen, to compete with if the Brewers have 2 games or 3 games where the starters absolutely just shove and, it's a close game in the 6th or 7th. I think at this point, the Cardinals bullpen is probably a little bit better than the Brewers until you get to Josh Hader. I mean, I think I would be dumb to not take the Cardinals in like 6. I mean, I think, it's not even like a homer pick.
No, I agree. I mean, Cardinals are the hottest team in baseball for a reason.
Yeah.
And the Brewers, while they have arms, I'm not sure they have the offense. It's one thing to win, score 2 runs, win 2-1, but going up against the hottest team in baseball, you need more. Can they get hot randomly on, when the postseason starts? Sure. Yeah. But I got to see it, and I haven't seen it yet, which I don't like to say because Milwaukee's kind of the team I've latched onto, or I'm going to latch onto. That's the team I'm cheering for. Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA championship. Milwaukee Brewers, I want to win the World Series because then that leaves Green Bay Packers potentially to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Wisconsin sweep. That stinks, so they got to have something, right?
What's that?
Instead of the Badgers stink.
Yeah, the Badgers stink. God, I made a huge mistake picking them to win the Big Ten West. But the Cardinals are too hot. Again, if the Brewers had a really good offense, I'd probably take the Brewers.
Oh, yeah. If they had an offense that was even like one step more competitive, I think it would be an easy pick for the Brewers. But they just don't right now.
Yeah.
If I would even go as far to say is if Christian Yelich had a year that he had in 17 and 18, you know, in those years that he was really cooking in 19, I don't think it would be that hard to pick him with just him playing up to his potential. But as it is right now, I think it'd be smart. I mean, I think it'd be a good pick to pick the Cardinals. I don't. It's biased. But the way they're playing right now, you have to. There's a lot of times where talent will absolutely win out. Last year it happened. The Dodgers were the most talented team in baseball. They steamrolled through the playoffs and beat the crap out of everybody until the Rays, and the Rays gave them a series, and it was fine. That doesn't happen a whole lot in baseball.
Nope.
A lot of times, it's like I said, like we've been talking about with the Rays, it's the teams that put their players in the best positions to be successful, or it's a hot team. Cardinals teams of the past have certainly shown that in 06 and 2011, winning those World Series. There have been a couple of Red Sox teams that have kind of done that too. Certainly a couple of Giants teams, or the Royals teams.
Oh, I forgot about the Manning cast. I gotta switch over there.
It's
Hey, where the hell is it?
It's got to be ESPN 2, right? Oh, Shane, you broke it.
No, they don't have it.
We're taking a week off.
Rappaport just tweeted, "How could the Mannings leave us on a night like this?" What the hell? Maybe they have internet problems. I don't know. Anyway.
Down like Facebook did today.
Yeah, for real. I don't know what happened there.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that I'm going to actually pick the Cardinals to go to the World Series, but I am.
I agree. I'm going to keep rolling with the hottest team. I've seen this before from the Cardinals. I've seen it in 2011. Kind of snuck into the playoffs, got hot, snuck into the playoffs, and then got hot and won the World Series. So I've seen this before. Granted, two totally different teams, different players for the most part, except I think Adam Wainwright was on that team. But
Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina?
Yeah, him too. But I want the Brewers to win. I'm cheering for that. First of all, I just want to say, before we get to the World Series, if this Final Four is what ends up happening, I'd be all for it. You got the Rays, who just are fun to watch, never won before. You got the Cardinals, who are obviously, one of the top organizations in baseball, going to bring viewership. You got the Brewers, who, like the Rays, never really had much success. And then you got Chicago, again, who hasn't had much success. And then if Chicago wins, you get potentially Milwaukee, and you have two teams who are separated only by about maybe 2 hours at the most.
Yeah.
Then you got Tony La Russa against potentially his former team in the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series. Would be very entertaining stuff. Of course, the Rays and those two teams would be entertaining too, but
yeah, I mean it's kind of a storybook ending to pick. I mean, the way I picked it is Chicago and St. Louis.
Tony La Russa against his former team.
Against his former team, who Tony La Russa left a World Series champion. There's no hard feelings with the Cardinals. Before he got back into the game, he would come back for opening days when the Cardinals have all their Hall of Famers come back and, ride the Clydesdales and stand around home plate and do all that stuff. So that, that's not ever been a problem, but it would be a great story. I think the two teams match up really well. Certainly Chicago has a slight, probably star power edge with Abreu and Jimenez and Robert and Tim Anderson, Kimbrel, Hendricks, Rondon, Lucas Giolito, like I said. But as long as we're riding them, we're going to ride them. And the Cardinals make it to the World Series and are continuing to be this hot. There's no reason why you don't see it out and pick the Cardinals to win the World Series. So, 2021 World Series champion, St. Louis Cardinals in 6.
You seem to do this every time the St. Louis Cardinals are in the playoffs, though. Maybe not every time, but...
I mean, why wouldn't I? You pick the Bruins every time they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Come on.
A few years ago, y'all all picked the Bruins, and I said they ain't getting past Tampa, and I was right. Last year, I didn't pick them to go. I think in the preseason, I did have them in the Stanley Cup, but not come playoff time.
Yeah, because they didn't. No, they made it.
They made it. They got to the second round again,
That's
and then
true.
but lost to the Islanders this time. And guess what?
Yeah.
I'm not picking the Bruins in the preseason this year. So, spoiler alert there. Hockey picks come next week, and I'm not going to have the Bruins in the Stanley Cup.
I'm so proud of you, Shane. You're so evolved.
I've only done it one time, I think. I've only done hockey picks a handful of times, 3 or 4, and I've only had the Bruins in the Stanley Cup one time.
Okay.
And I didn't even pick them to win it all. I picked Green Bay to win it all one time, and it was stupid.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I called Homer on you, and I was wrong. I'm sorry.
I did pick West Virginia to win the Big 12 once.
That was dumb.
Well, it was when they had Will Greer. They almost did, kind of.
Oh. Still dumb, but not as dumb as could have been.
All right, so World Series. You stuck with the St. Louis Cardinals, which at this point you kind of have to. That was your preseason pick. They're hot.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, I did that once. I did it with the Cubs. In 2016, I picked the Cubs to win in the preseason, and then I was like,
might as well ride with them.
Yeah, might as well keep going. I might not have. No, I did. I definitely did. That year, I had the Red Sox and Cubs in the World Series, and it ended up being Indians and Cubs. I actually get more right with baseball than I do any other sport. I don't know why. Maybe because I don't pay attention to it as much.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a shot in the dark sometimes.
Yeah. But so I have the Rays and the Cardinals. And this is unfortunately where I see the Cardinals' run ending. I think the Rays have too much pitching, well managed. It's a tough matchup for them. The White Sox, I think, are a favorable matchup.
I would agree.
If the Rays are there, that's a tough matchup. And if the Astros were there, I think that's a tough matchup for them too.
Yeah, I would agree there.
So I'm going to go Tampa Bay Rays. Like I said, it feels like their year. I shouldn't say that. I've said that since we started filling out the bracket, and you've kind of informed me on stuff. And the Dodgers are banged up. We've never really bought into the Giants. The Padres aren't involved. So that kind of leaves the NL kind of wide open. That was always kind of what's going against the Rays was, well, you'll get to the World Series, but you got the Dodgers waiting on you or something, you know?
The thing is, too, this could all go to hell, and the Dodgers could just ransack through the playoffs because they're the more talented.
No, but I agree. I don't think it's the Dodgers year either.
No, I don't think it is. But if they did, it wouldn't surprise me because they're the most talented team in the playoffs. Yeah. Bar none, either side, they're the most talented team in the playoffs. Wouldn't surprise me if they just ransacked through it and either won or came close to winning another World Series. But like you said, the stars are kind of aligning in the Cardinals' favor. And like I said, I think it's just you ride a hot team, and it feels right, even outside of kind of a homer perspective. It's a sneaky, really good pick and a team that really has every capability to do it and is hot. So
I want to know I have a baseball opinion I want to get your analysis on. home field advantage, not that important in baseball. I shouldn't say not that important, but not that effective in baseball.
That would be less important than in other sports, like a hockey or like a basketball.
Definitely basketball. That seems to be granted, home field doesn't exist. It's a home court. But that seems to be the most important for like if you have home court in basketball, like you're going to win the series most of the time, unless you're two even teams.
Yeah, I mean it definitely matters in terms of
right
knowing the grounds, knowing the kind of the intricacies of the bounces off the outfield walls and the sidewall, and knowing how the ball flies in that particular stadium, where it dies down. Like it matters, but like you said, I think it matters a lot less than a lot of people may think. Certainly, I mean, like sleeping at home is a big deal, and being comfortable and not having to sleep in a hotel. But these guys do that all the time, so that particularly matter. So I mean, yeah, I would agree that it's not. It's a little bit over.
It's not important, but I've seen teams all the time go into opposing stadiums and get a win.
Yeah. You see it
like way more often than football, than I think hockey.
Pretty much every other major sport.
Yeah.
Like
I remember.
You see it way more than you see it in like college football.
Right. Like I've seen. Like I remember Houston, and granted Houston was cheating, but Houston and LA playing, and LA won Game 6 in LA, and I remember at the time thinking, well, they have no Astros, which was the team I was cheering for, have no chance in Game 7, and then they won Game 7. Granted, they were cheating, though.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, I mean, it like I said, there's small things that matter, but at the end of the day, baseball is baseball no matter where you play it, unless it's in Colorado. But, it's...
Yeah, I mean, there are a few places that I think home field advantage are huge in baseball. One of them is Colorado. If the Rockies could field a really good team, I think that would be trouble.
Yep.
Number 2 is the Boston Red Sox. Fenway Park is a massive home field.
They've got so many people. That's the Red Sox and the Dodgers have the two biggest stadiums in the Major League Baseball, and there's just so many damn people.
Well, I was just going to say because of weather.
Yeah,
come October, for most of the country, it's still pretty warm. Like I'm in Texas right now, and was close to 90 degrees today. Granted, you're in Arkansas, so I'm sure it was almost as hot.
Yeah.
LA is it's the 70s almost year round. The only places where it's cold in October are Green Bay, Wisconsin, because I've lived there, and the Northeast. And I put Yankee Stadium up there too. Fenway Park are two of the biggest home field advantages in baseball. Miller Park would be, except it's not outdoors. They might put the roof down, I don't know, for a playoff game, but that's a retractable roof. And then the Dodgers, it's LA. Granted, a huge stadium though.
Yeah, I mean it definitely doesn't mean as much. Like we've been saying, it definitely doesn't mean as much in terms of like affecting the game. I think it has more to do with like comfort, eyesight, eye lines. How you see the ball coming out of the pitcher's hand, coming off the bat, reading it through the lights, through the background of the shirts of the people in the stands. Like it's different for every stadium. So playing 82 games a year or 81 games in a stadium will certainly give you comfort. I think that goes a long way. So it matters, but it doesn't matter as much.
All right, my man. I think we've done all the baseball talking that we could do, unless you have something else you want to get off your chest. I know your Auburn Tigers got a big win on Saturday.
Oh, boy. First time since 1999, Shane.
We were wee children.
In Death Valley.
I woke up. I for whatever reason, I'm getting older now, and I've been going to sleep much earlier, and I woke up at like 11:30
we
PM.
talk real quickly?
Are you going to comment on sleep schedules?
The atrocity that is 8 p.m. Central Time kickoffs for college football.
You want to bitch about kickoff times? Do 8 o'clock on East Coast. Granted, it's the same thing, but 8 o'clock on the East Coast, which is what I lived with for years.
Crazy.
Now you know how people on the East Coast feel.
That football game ended at 12:30.
Especially for college football. Like, that's ridiculous.
That's insane.
I
was, like, we're getting old, and I watched the whole game, but it was
I'm on a normal sleeping schedule now. I'm in bed at usually 11 p.m., and I'm up at 6:30. So, yeah, like, I used to, when I was working evenings, I would watch Pac-12 After Dark all the time and be like, why doesn't everyone watch this? This is fun. Games go till 1 or 2 in the morning. You know, what's the big deal? And then now I'm like, gosh, I can't stomach another game.
No chance I could do that right now. And, I mean, not to mention, we're not on a normal sleep schedule right now. So
Right, yeah, with babies.
Everything's just crazy.
Another thing is the national
her.
championship in college basketball for the last couple of years has been a 9 o'clock tip-off on the East Coast.
Yeah, no chance.
So I would watch it, but I'm like, gosh, this is I'm like, all right, 6 o'clock. It should be about time. Like Monday Night Football was on 6 o'clock. I had the pregame on. Okay, let's get. I want to get in the feel of things.
Yeah.
And a national championship 6 o'clock. Oh, pregame show ain't even on. We got another hour or two. And then the game's on for 2.5 hours. And then sometimes it might go to overtime, which it did a couple years ago with Virginia and Texas Tech, and it ended after midnight. So that's the East Coast for you. I know, believe me, I know. I know that's
I can't imagine having to do that. Like, I've got friends that live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that game started for them at 9 o'clock. And they were just like, there's nothing I can do. I cannot stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning to watch the football game.
That's ridiculous.
But they DVR it and watch it Sunday. Like
college football, especially too. There's so much clock stoppages. They go out of bounds, and then the clock stops after every first down. Like, we got to change that. Honestly, we do. If you want to make it to where the clock stops after a first down in college, but make it like in the last 2 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Like after every single first down, just doesn't make sense.
They don't have a problem with getting eyes to it, so it's not going to not. They don't want to do pace of play stuff that baseball's having to do.
Well, 2-minute drills in college are also just so easy because the middle of the field's wide open. Like, you can throw in the middle of the field. You can't do it in the NFL.
Everybody's bracketed to the sidelines. I don't know. That was what I wanted to get off my chest, was that it was a job to stay up and watch a fourth quarter nail biter. And
I didn't even stay up to watch. Granted, I was so mad because of West Virginia. I just went to bed. It was just one of those deals like, I'm in such a foul mood, I just need to go to bed.
Yeah. I've never, until this Saturday, I've never had a problem staying up and watching an Auburn game. I had a problem staying up and watching that game.
We haven't had many night games, but the Oklahoma game.
So the Oklahoma game was pretty rough, right?
No.
7 or so.
What's that?
Kickoff at like 7 or so.
It was 6. I thought you meant rough, as in like the loss was rough, and I'm like, that doesn't even crack like my top 20 heartaches. Yeah. And I saw so many fans after the game be like, "Oh, that hurts." That sucks. I'm hurting. I don't know how y'all do this every year. And I'm like, as a lifelong fan like me, I'm like, guys, that's not even like top 10 heartaches for me. Like, because I knew the way that game was going. I kept saying it the whole night. And my buddy, I went to grad school with, is a new-ish West Virginia fan. He went to Purdue, then he went to grad school at West Virginia. So the whole game, he's positive. Oh my gosh, they have a lead against Oklahoma. Oh my gosh, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. Oh my gosh, this is great. And I kept saying, it ain't gonna work out, man.
Just wait.
I can send you the text messages. I was such a negative Nancy during that game, but I knew it was coming. I've seen this team for 25 years now, or however long. I'm like, this ain't gonna work out. He was like, you're so negative. And then they ended up doing what I said was gonna happen.
You just said that, yeah.
And then he's like, I blame you because you put that in the air. And I said, no, I blame West Virginia because they do this to me all the time, and I know what to expect.
This has been happening to me for 25 years.
It drove me nuts. I'm like, you're telling me I'm wrong. Yeah. I've seen this story before. I've read this story before. I know how this movie ends.
I know how it ends, yeah.
Just drove me nuts. And he's a good guy, but he's new. And I sent it to a buddy, my friend James, who my co-host, our text messages, and he was cracking up. I was like, you can tell the lifelong fan from the new fan.
Yeah, I've kind of got that same thing with like guys that I went to school with that are like from Atlanta or from out of town, or came for the engineering school at Auburn or whatever, that haven't followed Auburn their whole life like I have. And I'm like, I remember like, I think it was like 2016, Auburn started like 6-1, 7-1, and they were like, oh my God, like we got a chance. We're gonna go in and beat Georgia, and then we're gonna come home and beat Alabama, and we're gonna win. We're gonna play for an SEC championship. And I was like, this is not the team to do that. I've seen teams. Let me tell you a quick story about a team in 2006 that
I remember that. They beat Florida that year.
But yeah, they did. That
I remember watching that game at my aunt's house, cheering like hell for Auburn because it would help West Virginia move up in the rankings. Because that was then the height of the Steve Slate and Pat White era.
Yeah.
So we were right there in the mix in the top 10, and I was cheering for Auburn because then we would move up.
That miserable 07 year that you had.
Dude, you had to bring that up.
And
it wasn't miserable, but one game was miserable.
And then that fateful backyard brawl. It's okay.
No, that's top one heartache right there for me.
Oh yeah, I know it is because I've got one too. In 2013,
Oh, national! I was going to say the kick six went in your favor.
Yeah, because I mean, and you think about it, that's West Virginia's chance to win a national championship. They were, and then Auburn.
We've had a few chances. 88 was one. If Major Harris doesn't break his arm, who was our Heisman hopeful quarterback, if he doesn't break his arm in the first quarter, we probably win against Notre Dame and win the national title. 93, that team kind of came out of nowhere. But we had if we had beaten Florida.
Asterisk, because the best team in college football was in Auburn, Alabama. That are on.
Well, I just mean if we had beaten Florida in the Sugar Bowl, we would have had a share of it at least, and done a Bama. Hey, we got one.
Got one.
But 88 was the national championship. It was going to be one of these two teams, and Major Harris, of course, breaks his arm or whatever he did and misses most of the game. And then 07 was the other one.
Oh yeah, the nail in the coffin.
That one. That
stinks.
Game. It stings. You got that right, dude. I can't see the final. The final score of that game is 13-9. I can't see those two numbers together without cringing. They don't necessarily have to be in that order. Even it can be 9-13. And I'm like,
September 13th is just a bad day for you.
Now, that doesn't happen all the time. What's that, 9-13?
Yeah, September the 13th.
I haven't thought of it that way. But you see it all the time, almost in basketball. Not so much in football, but in basketball, you see 13-9 all the time. And I'm like, oh, God, can someone score and get this off my TV?
Yeah. All right, bud, that's
I was just about to say, sounds like you got to go.
I've got to run. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, good having you on.
Hey, brother. Take it easy.
Later.